Hey guys, Brian Schultz here with Cape Falcon Kayak, and welcome to another video in our small boat camping series where I show you how to camp efficiently out of skin-on-frame kayaks and canoes. Although, quite honestly, this information is going to be useful for anyone who's interested in learning how to pack lighter and faster and go camping without sacrificing too much comfort. So first up here, if you haven't watched the first video in this series, make sure you go back and do that now, because that's where I give you a general overview of all the specific items that you're going to see in these later videos, and we pack those into one of my skin-on-frame sea kayaks so you can see how this whole thing ultimately comes together. Also, if you learned something from these videos, all I ask is that you hit that like and subscribe button, consider building one of our skin-on-frame boats, or buying your next piece of paddling gear from us. All right, so today's video is going to be a relatively short one. I'm just going to be talking about the clothes that I bring with me when I'm going on a week-long camping trip. Originally, this was supposed to be part of the video where I talked about my tent, my sleeping mat, and my sleeping bag, but it ended up being way too long, and I try not to torture you guys for more than 25 minutes at a time. So, opening this thing up, first thing we come to is a bag with my clothes in it. And this is about 2/3 of my clothes right here, and the other third lives in my ditch bag, which is a bag that has emergency food, first aid supplies, communications equipment, extra clothes, pretty much everything I would want to have if I ended up in an emergency situation where I had to abandon my boat, and this is all that I had to survive with. So I'm going to go ahead and unpack both of these and show you the clothing that I bring with me. Okay, so starting out with the clothes that I have in the ditch bag, this is everything that I want to have access to while I'm on the water and potentially in an emergency situation. So over here, I've just got a cheap Columbia fleece jacket. I don't really see any reason to buy really expensive fleece because I think all of it performs about the same. The reason you want to have fleece is because it's lighter weight, and if it gets wet, you can wring it out and you can still stay somewhat warm. Now, notice here, I've got a headlamp and a lighter on top of this, and that's because any jacket that I have, I always make sure I have a headlamp in one pocket and a lighter in the other. That way, when I get off the water or if I'm in an emergency situation, I immediately have light and I immediately have a way to make fire. So right here, I've got a Kokatat sun shirt. This is, in my opinion, the best paddling shirt that's ever been made. And unfortunately, it went extinct about 10 years ago. So I just keep buying these off of used sporting goods sites, and I'll make sure that I leave the name of this particular shirt in the description below in case you want to get one. Good sun protection is essential when you're out on the water because a bad sunburn, in addition to just being uncomfortable, can actually dehydrate you significantly, which is something that a lot of people don't know about. Also, back here, I've got just a lightweight paddling jacket, which also serves as a rain jacket for me. And then over here, I've got a spare sun hat. And this is in addition to my regular sun hat. Now, if I was paddling in the Pacific Northwest and it's cloudy sometimes, I'm probably not going to bring two sun hats. But as someone who has lost a sun hat and paid for it in a tropical climate, I would always bring a spare. This is absolutely essential. And then also, I've just got a warm wool cap right here. Now, taking a look at the clothes I have packed away inside of the boat, keep in mind that if I'm not touring in a dry suit with a thermal layer, I'll probably be wearing some of this stuff while I'm paddling. But I wouldn't add any more clothes even if that was the case. So anyways, starting out over here for my outer layer, which I'm going to wear around camp, I've just got a cheap cotton hoodie here. I know that cotton is heavy and also it doesn't keep you warm and if it gets wet, but if we're just talking about late spring, midsummer, early fall camping in a temperate climate, I don't think you need something really fancy and expensive. If I was touring in a really wet climate where it was going to be pouring every day where we got to camp, I probably wouldn't have this. I'd have something else that was made out of fleece. Or if I was touring in a tropical climate where it's just not going to get cold at night, I wouldn't bring this at all. Or if I was touring in a really cold place where it wasn't going to be really rainy, instead of this, I would have a compressible down jacket that would live inside of a small dry bag. And then just like before, I've got a headlamp in one pocket, I've got a lighter in the other. Try to get into the habit of this, you're gonna thank me for it. Now, coming over here, I've just got a cheap pair of full-length REI hiking pants. These can keep me protected from the sun, and also if they get wet, they're gonna dry out pretty quick. You can spend so much money on stuff like this if you want to, but these work just fine for me. However, coming up from there, I've got a really expensive pair of Prana hiking shorts. And I never would have spent this much money on a pair of shorts, except for the fact that this was the only option that I had when I was about ready to go on a trip. So I spent the $70 for these shorts, and I have to say, they are really nice. They've got great ventilation, they're super durable, the fit is perfect, they come integrated with their own belt. I like all the pockets in it, and so if you have the money for it, I'm a big fan of these Prana Zion climbing shorts here. Now back here, I just have a cheap pair of long underwear pants, so if I get a little too cold in the evening or inside of my sleeping bag, I can put these on. Also, if I'm touring in a dry suit and it turns out that it gets warm and my fuzzy layer is way too hot, I could potentially switch it out for these and just a t-shirt underneath the dry suit. These are just cheap synthetics, but if you have the money for it, the merino wool long underwear is actually really nice. It's a little bit warmer. You can wear it for weeks and it doesn't stink. It's also surprisingly durable, although it is quite expensive. Now, coming over here, I've just got a couple of cotton t-shirts, really nice designs on these, available at capefalconkayak.com. And I was brought up in Boy Scouts to believe that if you wore a cotton t-shirt for more than 5 minutes, it would immediately become soaked with moisture and then you would quickly die of hypothermia. Now, 40 years later, I'm still alive, which means that at least for me, cotton has worked well as a base layer. If I was someone that sweated a lot, or I was in a really humid climate, or I was touring for months and months on an extreme expedition, would I be using cotton t-shirts? Probably not. But for just normal people camping, I think this is fine. Back here, got a couple pairs of underwear, a couple pairs of wool socks, and that is pretty much it for my clothing. Now, just one more thing that I forgot to put on the table there that's also in my ditch bag that is super important is a pair of some type of gloves that you can use to cover your hands, because one of the things that people neglect when they're out paddling in sunny weather is hand protection, and you can get wicked sunburns on the back of your hands. But even worse than that, you can also get really, really bad blisters. And if you're trying to put Band-Aids over your blisters while your hands are wet, that is just not gonna work. And so instead, what I would recommend is just picking up a cheap pair of these gardening gloves. These are like $7 a piece. And over the years, I have found these to be better and actually last longer than any expensive paddling glove I've ever tried. The cotton on the inside of them gets wet, but it stays comfortable. It doesn't tend to make your blisters worse. It gives you a really good grip on the paddle. And it's also good around camp if you just need something to grab firewood, or if you're handling anything roughly and you don't want to mess up your hands. So I would definitely put a pair of these in the ditch bag as well. And then finally, I didn't talk about footwear. This is really just personal preference. Personally, I am a flip-flop man. I am completely comfortable in flip-flops 3 seasons out of the year. Of course, if I was camping in super cold, rainy weather, maybe I would have more of a closed-toe shoe. Or if I was doing a ton of hiking, maybe something more like a hiking sandal. All right, so I think that's pretty much it for this short video talking about camp clothing. One thing I didn't talk about in this video, however, is head nets and bug shirts. And that's because the way that I deal with bugs is I just don't go camping in buggy areas. So if you're someone who camps frequently in buggy areas and you have a favorite bug shirt or head net, please leave that in the comments down below, along with any other clothing recommendations you might have. And I'll make sure to include the name of that discontinued Kokatat paddling shirt in the description, because it really is just an awesome piece of gear. It's so sad that they stopped making it. So finally here, as usual, if you like this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Also, don't forget to check out our website, capefalconkayaks.com, where we have skin-on-frame building video courses, plan sets, and various free skin-on-frame resources. You can also find us on Instagram, @CapeFalconBuilds, where we post photos and videos of whatever we're working on in the shop, or whatever we're testing out on the water. And you can find that same content on the Cape Falcon Kayak Facebook page as well. So that's it for now. Take care, be safe on the water. I will see you next time.